Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and alright, so a massive rumour just hit the internet, and this one could either be absolutely brilliant or it could be a total train wreck. The word on the street is that a V for Vendetta series is in the early stages of development at HBO, and it will have James Gunn on board as executive producer. Now, let's pump the brakes for just a second. This is still a rumor and based on an insider source that's talking to publications. Nothing has been officially greenlit or confirmed by HBO. So yeah, remember the 5th of November. So we'll have a look at where this all comes from. So it's coming from Variety, and they are the ones reporting that a new take on the Alan Moore's most celebrated works, of course, V for Vendetta, is in development at HBO. So let's have a look. So it's saying BAFTA award nominated Somewhere Boy writer Pete Jackson is attached to pen the series, with DC Studios co-heads James Gunn and Peter Safran on board as executive producers, along with Ben Stevenson via Poison Pen and Leanne Colleen or something of Wall to Wall Media, which is part of Warner Brothers Television Studios UK. Warner Brothers Television will produce. Jesus Christ, why do they have such weird long names? So Moore's 1982 tale is set in a dystopian Britain controlled by the fascistic North Fire Party. An anarchist named V, inspired by the infamous revolutionary Guy Fawkes, attempts to take down the government with the help of a young woman named Evie Hammond. Here's what Moore had to say about the origin of his idea for V during a 2000 interview. So he was saying, when we started to do V, the entirety of the original idea was that we would have a dark, romantic, Norse adventurer, and then we thought we'd set him in the future, and then the details slowly came together. And yeah, somewhere out of this we realized we were doing something about the contrast between anarchy and fascism, that there were lots of moral questions being asked, and that yes, it was very much centered upon the world of ideas as being in some ways more important than the material world, which is, I think, a notion which has probably borne fruit recently in other areas of my work, where it's still something that I am very much involved with. That notion that ideas are more important, if anything, than the material. Now, this does raise a big question regarding them doing something like V for Vendetta now in 2025 going into 2026. What exactly are they going to do? How much are they going to use it to try and say fascism is rampant and racism and all this crap? That is the issue. V for Vendetta was a great movie. It's a great story and all that type of stuff, but adapting it today is where you kind of go, uh-oh. You know, they're obviously going to push all the weird crap down our throat. So, and like, we're even looking at what could a V for Vendetta series look like. So if this thing actually gets made, what would it look like? The most exciting part is the format. A multi-episode series gives the story the one thing the 2005 film was missing: breathing room. With hours instead of minutes, a show could finally get into the nitty-gritty of Moore's world. It could flesh out all the supporting characters who were sidelined in the movie. The detectives hunting V. The graphic novel is a sprawling, complicated story, and the series is the perfect way to do it justice. This brings us to the million-dollar question: will it be a period piece or a modern story? A faithful adaptation would stick with the post-nuclear 1990s UK setting of the comic, a fascinating alternate history reflecting Cold War and Thatcher era and anxieties, but the Watchmen model suggests another path. A modern V for Vendetta could be terrifyingly relevant. And that is the thing that even this thing is saying here, like, to go into, oh, let's do today's version of V for Vendetta. It's like, it's just going to be this thing about immigration and fascism and the far right and all of this crap. That's what they would focus it on. And that's a terrible idea, because the first thing you do is you lose the audience. You absolutely lose the audience. The fact that it's meant to be in this alternate history, that's the thing. It's set in the 90s. It's meant to be alternate timelines, all this stuff. Things happened that never really happened, all that. The fact that you would move that to today shows you that you would be trying to make it attached to the real world. And this is something we've seen now a lot in a lot of old shows and stuff. Look at Star Trek right now under Alex Kurtzman. The fact that, yes, obviously their timeline is no longer the actual prime timeline. People still don't realize that. They're dumb enough that they don't even realize that. But the reason that is the case is because they've moved dates. Star Trek was never meant to be our actual world. Yes, we had a lot of our history in it, but then they added stuff to that which changes the world. Of course, that being the eugenics war, which was in the 90s, ending in 1996 and stuff like that, which that immediately removes Star Trek from our actual world. They are dumb enough now that they don't understand that, and they're starting to add in stuff. Oh, one of the catalysts that led to World War III was the January 6th riots. They showed that in Strange New Worlds. They actually showed that in the very first season, and it just went on and on and on. That would be what they would do with this if they were to set it in modern day, especially if it was in modern day London or something. They would try and reflect what's currently happening now, which again would be that whole thing of the immigration, the far right pushing crap that they would go after, racism, freedom of speech, probably. Would they use social media as the catalyst for V to come out? How would they manipulate the whole thing of social media to push these narratives and stuff from V? Would they try and make V out to be the villain? All of this type of stuff. And that's not what you want. You would want them to look at what the stories were, what they could be, and how to work that into a TV series, but keep it faithful. They probably wouldn't do that. So it's an interesting idea. It could work if they were to stick with the comics and stuff like that and keep it set in the past. Problem is, it's modern day. They probably won't do that. Again, though, keep in mind, we take it with a grain of salt. This is a rumor at this stage, but James Gunn is probably desperate to get stuff out there, especially on the small screen as well now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they push ahead with this. So what do you guys think? Would you be interested in seeing a V for Vendetta series on HBO? And do you share the same concerns that if they do it, they could set it in today's climate and reflect all the BS that we have right now? Let us know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.